Hi there, Dawn McVey here. Today we're going to talk about how to package cards that have oversized embellishments on them. I get asked that question quite often. What do I do with cards that have leaves that stick out the side of the card or other embellishments that stick out the sides? How do I fit them in an envelope or how do I put those in the mail? So today we're going to address those questions and hopefully make things a little bit easier for you. So let's get right to it. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing I always ask myself when I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with the card is how does it need to be given to the recipient? Is it going with a gift? Is it going to be hand delivered, or does it need to go in the mail? In the case of cards that are going with a gift, as you can see with this one, I've got a little bit of flower that sticks out the side of the card. That would make it, even though it's just a little bit, it would make it too big to stick it in a standard A2 sized envelope. So I need to come up with plan B. Because I know that this is going with a gift, a lot of times I like to use this card as a giant gift tag. I keep these craft bags on hand. You can buy them at Michael's, Joann's, Hobby Lobby, places like that. I keep these on hand in a couple of different sizes all the time because they go with everything. And I love to take a hole punch. This is, can you see how small that hole is? It's not a very big hole, but just enough to thread some twine through it. And I punch a hole right in the upper left part of the card, just inside it. And then I use some baker's twine, thread it through the hole. Oopsie. And I tie it right on the front of the card, or on the front of the envelope, or the gift bag rather. Then for one final step, I usually go ahead and add a bow with some ribbon, some coordinating colored ribbon to that same handle, just to decorate it even one step more. And the finishing touch then obviously would be some tissue paper in a coordinating color, and there you've got a really cute gift bag. And you've done all the work to make that card really cute, so why not let it serve as a giant gift tag and be part of the overall gift packaging. Now, secondly, if the card is going in the mail, which is the question I get asked about the most, how do I mail a card that's got these things sticking off the sides of it? Here's a card I made a little while back that you can see has some leaves that stick out the sides. The first thing I would say is that it sounds really simple, but I just buy bigger envelopes. These are a 5 1/4 inch by 7 1/4 inch size envelope. I believe they're referred to as greeting card envelopes if you look for them in the store. I buy them in packages of cream or white at office supply stores, so I always have bigger envelopes on hand, and then I don't have to worry that everything has to fit inside a tiny little A2 sized envelope. And to be honest, it's a lot more fun and way less constraining when you don't have to worry about the confines of a smaller envelope. So I would get a bigger envelope and tuck the card inside. Obviously, it's not a tight fit, but that's okay with me because at least I'm able to mail this card to the recipient, and it's exactly the card that I wanted to make, and I didn't have to do anything to make it smaller just to fit inside an envelope. Now, one thing I will say is in cases like this where there's a lot of layers here, there's kind of a lot of thickness to the card, I like to take another piece of cardstock and tuck it right inside as well to cover the front of the card, and that just helps to protect it a little bit more during shipping. That way if it does move around, it's a little bit more snugly fit in there, and the front can't get all scraped up. Now, obviously, when you're sending something like this envelope is a little bit thicker than normal. You're going to need to probably check with your post office and see how much it's going to cost you to ship this. Obviously, if it's thick enough that it can't go through the machines at the post office, then you do have to pay a little bit extra to mail it. So that is something to consider with making one that's thicker. But obviously, if it wasn't too thick, then there's no additional charge just for mailing a larger envelope like this. So the next thing I would do is I really like to dress up the outside of the envelopes. One quick and easy way that I often use is with washi tape. I've got quite a collection going these days of washi. It's kind of hard to resist it once you start collecting it. So I always try and use a color that's going to coordinate with whatever is on the card. So in this case, I've got some pink here, and I will tell you, if you just tear like this, you get kind of a diagonal crazy tear edge. If you want a nice straight line, which maybe that's only me, but I kind of like it to be a little bit of a straight line if it's going to be on the card front. If you pinch it on the side here, just on the top corner with your thumb, and pull straight out that way, you end up with a nice, moderately straight edge. It just looks a little better than a crazy diagonal line. And a lot of times, I'll add it to the side here, kind of pointing at the address. And if I've got multiple colors that coordinate with the card, I'll add a second color. Sometimes I just do 2 strips of the same color. Whatever, you could do whatever you want. Washi tape is just fun. So that is a really fast and easy way to dress it up a little bit. Another thing you can do to the outside of an envelope, of course, is you can stamp on it. Obviously, you don't want to add anything with bulk or layers because they'll come off in the mailing process, but you can always stamp on the front, and you can always use any kind of a frame or a label shape. Like this is the label basic stamp set. This one's a really good one to stamp on the front of the envelope, and then you just address inside the label there. But I tend to like things that are just a little bit less boxy and a little bit more decorative. So this is a stamp from Holiday Photo Finisher stamp set. It's one of these sort of scrolly images, and I like to, again, pull out an ink color that's going to coordinate with the envelope or with the card. So I've got some Hibiscus Burst ink here. Stamp it right next to the address. And then to finish it off, I might go ahead and still just add a little bit of washi tape to the back. It's just always a little bit more fun and exciting when there's a little bit of color, I think, on the outside of the envelope. So that is a really easy way to take care of how do you mail cards with bulk sticking off the sides. Lastly, another thing I like to do, and honestly this one is my favorite, is to use a glassine bag. Paper Tray carries these in several colors or several sizes. This particular size is the largest size, and it's great for sliding the card right in. Some of the pretty color and decoration from the card always peeks through, which is pretty. But then you can also decorate the outside of the glassine bag, which I think is really fun. This works great if you're hand delivering the card. Even if you're giving it with a gift, this still makes it almost look like a second gift because it's so pretty. So I like to fold the top of the bag over. You want to be sure and slide it in the bag so that the seam on the bag is on the back side of the card, because that you don't want to detract from the front of your packaging. And then I've got a piece of berry sorbet cardstock here that I've die cut with one of the half and half dies. And I went ahead and added a score line. I don't know if you can see that. I added a score line right up at the top, or kind of the top third. And I'm just going to lay that over the top edge of the bag. And then I've got a regular old stapler here. Just going to staple that shut. But we're not done. I've also got a die cut here. This is the matte stock 4 die, and I've got some rustic cream cardstock. And I've chosen the matte stock 4 shape because I want to use this herringbone image from the matte stock 4 collection stamp set because it coordinates with that herringbone pattern that I've got on the front of my card. Particularly in cases where you're decorating a glassine bag and those details kind of show through, you want everything on the outside to really coordinate well. So that is why I've chosen to go with this herringbone. And I'm going to pull out my black ink. This is True Black. And now this is going to go right on the bag, but you'll notice I'm going to position it just high enough that it will cover that staple. And if I play my cards right and position the foam adhesive just right, the recipient just might even be able to use this, at least this tag portion again if they would like to. Okay, so the flower that is on the front of the card is from the Sweet Life stamp set. So I've pulled out the stamp set and the coordinating dies, and I've die cut a flower and a little leaf cluster, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp those now, also using the colors that match the front of the card. So let's pull all of these stamps out here. There are 3 flower layers and just 2 layers for the leaves. And the colors for the flowers are Sweet Blush, Berry Sorbet, and the top layer is Pure Poppy. So we'll stamp the lightest layer first. Next we'll do the Berry Sorbet layer. This set is so fun to play with. So now we'll add some Pure Poppy on top. I want to be really careful to get it nice and lined up, so take your time. And there we go. How pretty is that? This, I would have to say, is one of my favorite flower stamp sets. Granted, I have a few favorite flower stamp sets, but this is one of them. And then lastly, for the stamping, we're going to add the leaves. And on the card, I used Simply Chartreuse for the back layer. Oops. And New Leaf for the top layer. So these little bits are ready to add directly to our matte stack layer. So we use some more foam adhesive here. And for the leaf, I'm going to keep it flush with the matte stack layer rather than popped up. So I'm just going to use a bit of score tape on the back of that. But I'm going to bend it a little bit to make it a little more lifelike. And now for one last detail, I think I'm going to add a little button. This one's pretty. Add a button right to the half and half die. Or the die cut, rather. And there we have it. Really cute way to package up a card that is a little bit too big for a standard size envelope. We'd love to see your take on packaging cards with oversized embellishments. If you'd like to play along with today's challenge, head over to Nicole Hetty's blog where you can add a link to your project. Thanks so much for watching. This has been Dawn McVey with Make It Monday.